Hi, friends. All right. Today we are going to talk about the repression mechanism that exists in human beings. Okay? Because it's in everybody. And if we are trying to recover from any kind of chronic symptom, chronic sensation, we want to be aware of this. It's important. It's essential that we're aware of it. And also, if we're on a spiritual path, we want to be emotionally mature, right? We are not emotionally mature if we have repression going on. And this is kind of a big thing, okay? And I had a repression going on. I had a reason for repression, like many of us do. The amount of fear, the amount of anger, there's probably a reason that happened, okay? But when we understand the mechanism in ourselves and start to learn how to work with it, right? Take responsibility for it. We're going to start feeling more free inside. Because repression, if we have repression, we are not free. There's no way. It's keeping everything managed inside. So repression mechanism, it is what it sounds like. It's a mechanism, right? Programmed into the brain. And so it happens automatically, without our approval, without our getting to decide, oftentimes. And a mechanism is designed because it learned that a certain emotion was not acceptable, wasn't safe. Somewhere along the line, it just got to be too much, maybe, and the brain started to see, oh, we need to do something different. And so it usually, what would happen, instead of allowing ourselves to feel the right now feeling that was relevant to the situation, our brain learned to do something different. That's the mechanism. Okay? And so the mechanism is going to be different in each one of us. And it's up to each one of us to learn about ourselves, to really get to know ourselves, to see how the mechanism is acting in us. Okay? And the mechanism can act in lots of different ways in one person. Okay? And I want to give just a little example so you can start to be aware of how it acts when you're seeing it. And I'm sure you've all seen this. Let's say you say something to another person that isn't that aggressive, that is actually pretty harmless. It might be a friendly suggestion, it might be a request, and that person takes it, responds or reacts rather, really defensively, just reacts. And there's a lot of energy in that reaction back at you. And you can see that they never even heard you. They never even considered your request. They never even listened to your suggestion to see if it might be helpful. They didn't hear you at all. Okay? And that reaction back at you, that defensiveness, that's repression. Okay? And it's not very nice to be around, right? It's when I'm around it, after a while, I don't even want to be around that person. It's like, wow, they don't really even care about hearing what I have to say. They just they're just in that automatic safe, okay? Now, from their point of view, you're a danger. You're a problem, okay? and their only priority is to stay safe. All happening on the unconscious, okay, through the brain, okay, and because they're not even aware that they're doing it, and they're putting it back on you. That's the mechanism, right? They're getting rid of it. You're the problem, okay? So that's one way that a mechanism will work. It'll blame. Blaming is a huge mechanism. Huge, okay? Complaining and blaming, they're kind of in the same mechanism category, okay? And now the opposite is also true. A mechanism can be like so concerned about the other person. Let's say you offer a suggestion or a request, and that person responds like overly concerned, right? And it's not coming about themselves, it's about you. That person is worried about what you're thinking. So when we do this, when somebody makes a request to us, has a suggestion for us, how do we respond? Are we so overly concerned about what that person is thinking about us that we're not even really hearing the request or the suggestion? Because that is another way that we're bypassing what we're really feeling. What are they feeling? What are they thinking? And we're not even like getting in touch with ourselves. Okay? Another way the mechanism works is it defaults to a completely different feeling. And this is something that really happened a lot for me. This was my big one. It was what I call a default. And I had a lot of circumstances that were really difficult. A lot of, my basic needs weren't being met. And it kept happening and happening and happening, and I just kept sweeping that fear under the rug and trying to be strong, but instead of feeling the fear, I would default to sadness and kind of despair. When the symptoms got really bad, it was in more of a despair kind of energy. And so it's very easy to default to a different emotion rather than feel something that's primary. And the primary emotion is the one we want to get in touch with, because that's going to lead even deeper into that root of what doesn't feel safe, what can't feel safe. And that's the ego structure, right? The ego structure, it's not real. It's not like, it all it's doing is looking for validation, right? Some way to define itself. And what we're looking for is to be free. And that involves liberating these emotions, these deep, 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 deep feelings that are really buried, okay? And understanding how the mechanism is working in you. Are you people pleasing? Do you really worry about what people are thinking about you? you blame others instead of taking responsibility for your own feelings? Do you avoid? It's a big one I forgot to mention. That's a mechanism too, right? Hiding, pulling back, just I'm not going to deal with it. Run away. And that's often a huge trauma response. What that kind of freeze, instead of a fight or flight, it's a freeze. Right? Shut the door. Don't deal. And so you will know. I mean, do I feel free inside? And I guarantee you, the more you start understanding the mechanism, you will be surprised when it kicks in, because it's going to kick in without your approval. But you're going to be onto it. You're going to be going, oh, that's my mechanism. Look at that. And you're going to be it's kind of interesting, right? And even if it kicks on, you'll know that you don't have to feed into it anymore. You don't have to go unconscious now, because that's all unconscious. When you start becoming more aware of this mechanism, I don't need to do that. Okay? And I'm going to go a little deeper in the next video. I just kind of wanted to talk about the mechanism itself, that you start becoming curious about it. Because, we don't, in the mind-body world, it's not just about getting rid of your symptoms. I see a lot of people get rid of symptoms and they come back because they haven't liberated all this. They haven't gotten that brain to start becoming more resilient and adapting. And they get really frustrated because they got a little stress and emotions and symptoms came back, right? And so, my philosophy, and I know there's a few others out there too, my philosophy is like, let's get the baseline all the way down to normal. Let's liberate all these unconscious behaviors and mechanisms that are so obsolete. They don't serve us in any way. They're learned patterns. And it's all trauma informed, big T and little t. And trauma informed just means that the brain didn't feel safe at some point. And this happens over a lifetime. You have a conversation with somebody and it just doesn't go well. Your brain goes, oh, that wasn't safe. You have a relationship with somebody that's doesn't really have your best interests at heart, and that's not safe. And we're always encountering situations and relationships and circumstances that the brain is like, oh, that's not safe. And it stores that memory. But my intention in the work that I do for myself is to show the brain that it's always safe. And that includes a circumstance that we need fight or flight. We need that big burst of cortisol and adrenaline to get away and get safe. And you're the awareness of all this, so you're not a victim of it. You're not powerless. get to look at everything and say, I don't need to do this anymore. And you get to start to see how powerful that is. And how the universe has your back in all of it. All of it. Because the universe wants you to be free. That's what we're here for. Okay? And so this emotional mechanism, this repression mechanism, is a huge piece of that puzzle. Huge. It's not just about feeling better, it's about being free. That's the difference. Okay? And, watch that tendency, I just want to feel better, and that's going to make my symptoms go away. Maybe a little bit. Maybe in the beginning. If you're lucky. I wasn't lucky that way. I had to go deep. Okay? All right. So the next video, I'm going to go a little deeper, but it's basically the same understanding how to work with mechanisms, okay? And I hope this was helpful. Okay, bye. Take care.